So, well, I kinda ask you about that later. I was just curious how you get the all this to run on the same platform at once. That's pretty interesting. Alright, well, definitely I'll show you, I have it's a thing called BlueStack, and I just found this out literally, like, 2 days ago doing a Spaces, but it's basically like if you have Windows, you can download the application, and then you basically runs like an emulator as a phone, and then you can download Twitter on it, and then it opens Twitter up on your computer as if you were on your phone, so you can click on the mic, jump on Spaces on your desktop, and not even have to use your phone at all, and then you can, like, choose your input and output, speaker devices. Oh, yeah, yeah, I've heard Loopback. There's that one, and then there's, Banana something, I think. I used to use that for streaming, but I've heard Loopback is, good. Nice. Medias. Yeah. Yeah, definitely Facebook. I mean, and even, what was it? Zuckerberg even came out and kinda, like, spilled the tea on the whole, like, uh, information and, like, censorship where he was like, "Look, like" I mean, I hate, Mark Zuckerberg just as another guy, but, he was just like, "Hey, like, the FBI came into our headquarters and was like, 'Don't post this stuff,' and he's like, 'What am I supposed to do?' Just, like, tell him no," and he's like, so then we had to closely work with the FBI and, forces to, censor whatever they told, we couldn't post or anything, especially stuff about COVID, the laptop, Trump, Biden, you name it, but, I mean, that's just wrong even in itself to, suppress a lot of that information when, looking down the road, a lot of that stuff that was being suppressed ended up to be true. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, I was gonna say, one thing I definitely wanna kinda, like, dive more into is the Substack, but there's getting a little echo on the feedback. But, that too, I mean, I think Joe Rogan, like, as much as people don't like him and, even the media kinda paints him out to be, like, the narrative that he gets, but, if you actually listen to him, he's very, uh, open to look at both views of it and even having, both sides of the opposition on his podcast to talk to him and just ask him, normal. Then it's on you as a person to kind of like digest and consume that information and take it how you want. But as far as both sides, Fox, CNN, all those news channels, it's like it's very one-sided. So it's hard to find someone that's reliable that doesn't seem like they're getting paid to push a narrative. Because there's people on YouTube. Obviously they want ad revenue because I mean, why else would they be on there speaking if they're not getting paid? But even the ad people, they will target certain narratives as well too because the algorithm feeds and the algorithm knows what people want. So if you're more right leaning, you're more likely to buy right leaning products compared to someone on the left. You're probably going to want left leaning products. So um, you know, you can get influenced by just advertisements at the end of the day too, and that's probably like what a lot of like contributors of like these major news sources want as well is for the narrative to market to a certain audience, if that makes sense. Did we lose you? Oh, you're good. Fair. Yeah. Yeah, and it's the people speak for it because I think, like you said, it's kinda an echo chamber, depending on, like, what your views are, and the algorithms, they just start to feed people more and more to where the point where, like you said about the people kinda in the center trying to, like, find their own views, but even unwilling or unknowing to them, let's say they're scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or just even YouTube, and they watch one thing that's like a gateway towards one of those directions to steer them to, and they spend more than 30 minutes or 30 seconds or a minute watching it, then the algorithms will be like, okay, well, he spent some time watching this, so let's feed him something a little bit more and more and more, and then it's I feel like they're really just trying to push everybody to a certain side, just based off the algorithm alone, which is yeah. I would say I think the major catalyst of people understanding the power of the algorithm and how it can, like, shape your point of view was kind of the height of COVID, because that was a moment where everybody was at home and we had nothing to do but, be on YouTube and social media, and you saw the rise in conspiracy theories to the point where, like, it was on the news, like, "Yo, like, you guys stop, like, believing all this." We had QAnon come up, and, they had their whole little moment and everything that, like, spread through the news, but but it really kind of, I think, shown what the algorithm can do and how much it can influence people. And um, once they realize that, they're like, oh wow, we can actually use this to, like, our own political gains as well. And I think it's only going to get worse in the end. And but I think the good thing is Twitter being taken by Elon Musk, where I think he made a post where he's like, I've like, upset both sides of the parties, which is like a good thing, because that means the people in the center are like, all right, like, now we're getting fair information, to where it's not just like one side mad at the other. It's like both sides are just getting mad at everybody. Looks like you dropped again. Yo. Looks like he has some input output issues. Please stand by for some technical difficulties. Hopefully gets it sorted out here in a little bit. But I honestly don't even think I introduced myself. My name is Danks. I'm with ChapterX.
Oh, sorry.
We have a metaverse as well. We're working on IRL Web3 events. You can check out on our Twitter. We've got a couple of demos of our NFC cards that we've created. As well, you can see a couple of our events that we've hosted inside the metaverse. We've now allowed Pontem Wallet and Aptos integrated into our metaverse, so we'll probably have a some Aptos projects in there with their own worlds. Um, we also have multi-chain, so we even have Solana, Ethereum, Polygon, and other chains as well, where you can enter in. If you own any of our partnered NFTs, you can actually be your own NFT avatar in the world, run around. We've got games, speaking areas, crystals that you can mine to use in the game. And then as well, we've got even like a loot box, coin flip, lots of fun things in there. We'll have some events probably coming up here and during Christmas. And yeah, we're just excited to talk again with Pontem. Always enjoy our conversations about politics, aliens, and random topics through the events. Oh, are we back? Yeah, right. It's the lizard people. Yeah, definitely. Mm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, even decentralization with communication with our own, money and funds, and we see crypto more or less growing every year since its first inception into the space. Which there's another conspiracy I have about that. We can talk about that one later. Um, but but yeah, I think it's definitely the way to go, and people are is to listen to what we want, be where we want, use our funds how we want. Um, because I mean, even in a bank, we saw with what was it, China and Russia, they both ran into the same issue where, during COVID and the Ukraine incidents, people tried to go to the bank and they were just like, "Yeah, you're not getting your money." I mean, they basically pulled a FTX, but in a real world case, then just as well as being in the metaverse, um, I think we definitely have some time to grow before it kind of gets mass adopted. I still think we're like very, very early, as far as metaverse plays go, where it's going to be something that, everybody participates in um, on like a day to day case. Cause now I feel like most of the time it's most people, they go into the metaverse, they hang out for a little bit. They're like, oh, this is really cool. There's some cool technology here. But then, like what's next? What do I do? And just as much as you look at the old Nokia brick phones, you go on those and you're like, cool, like I can talk, text, and play Snake. And then other than that, like what can I do? But, we look at our phones today and now it's basically a full computer in your hand and the possibilities are endless to where, like the cameras on there are better than cameras we've, had in the past. And um, I think for the metaverse, there's definitely going to be places where you'll go to get your news inside of them. You'll be able to go in there and walk around and chat with people instead of, like we have these AMAs, but they're scheduled, where we all kind of like sharing information, sharing thoughts and ideas. But, imagine basically like I think like a good comparison is, if you've ever played MMORPGs, you run in there, there's giant towns, each city kind of has its own group of people, which is like really weird, like if you're into like those kind of games, but it's really interesting how a whole community and society can exist inside of, one of these games. And I think that's kind of transverse into the metaverse as well, especially with us in crypto. Like imagine a world where it's like, everybody's kind of just sharing their charts and their ideas of like, where this coin's going to go to, or, just sharing information about politics or just daily events inside the crypto space or just, in the real world events as well too. So I definitely think it's the way to go because it's all unfiltered and it's just everybody sharing their own ideas and their own opinions compared to how we were talking about where one company kind of just has a narrative that they have to push and that's what they stick with. Yeah, they're very strict with that. Yeah, and I mean we kind of see that now with like you said with like these Twitter spaces and everything with people kind of sharing their views and their takes, and then you can have like narratives and sides to choose from. I mean, you can look at like one person I dislike a lot, but BitBoy Crypto, and him just like attacking like all these people and even though it's not, like, influenced by companies, it's influenced by engagement. So maybe someone doesn't share that actual view, but they know that talking about a subject will get engagement, so then they participate in that, and then they kinda turn down this feed where, now all they do is talking about hot topics, whether they believe it or not, they just want the engagement and will suck up anything that they can get talking about something, which is like another kinda thing I think we're gonna probably start seeing within, like, the crypto, um, space as far as, like, people running spaces, like, if you're familiar with, like, Shillin' Villain, he was someone that, like, really utilized this to get a huge following, to the point where he had thousands of people in his space because, he just got popular because people would tune in just to hear him, like, just cook other projects for, like, what they're doing. He'd have them come on and then, mute them or kick them off, even, like, reputable people in the space. They're like, "Wow," like, "Who is this guy?" And then, it created kinda like a wave of other people trying to do the same thing, so, it's really interesting how the algorithm and the hunger for engagement can really just like manipulate a person as well the people that are consuming that information too. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's definitely possible, and that's one thing that I've talked with the team at ChapterX is, trying to work on these, like, digital music festivals or digital concerts 'cause, um I would say a couple of years ago, there was an artist that had a really cool experience where you would go into this world. You all get your own like little avatar. It wasn't like too much individuality, but you could like change a couple of colors and stuff. It showed like what country you were in, and then like you were saying, to the point where there would be these little bubbles where you could go into and talk to people only in that bubble. So you started to see, people branch out, like while they're listening to the music, they'll go into these bubbles and kind of conversate just as if you were at a music festival yourself. And I think that's one thing that I truly love about the metaverse and the capabilities of it. And even just being in the space is, when you go to these events or go inside of them, you can meet people from around the world and share opinions. And it's really interesting. Like, like I had a really long conversation with someone that was from the Netherlands, and I was kind of just like, getting his take on, Americans as a whole, and how those people kind of view us. And it's really interesting to see, outside perspectives from, especially if you've only lived in the US and never traveled outside the country. You can actually get that opinion from someone and like kind of see their views and be like, okay, well, you may think that, but it's really like this. And that's just kind of like, a painted picture of the media probably from your side of it, just as much as, maybe some things may be right. And I have some views from you, but getting together and getting in worlds where you can conversate, you can kind of break those barriers and just have a natural conversation without the influence of influencers or media. Yeah. Actually, we've I don't think we've stress tested having like over 50 people in it. Like, outside of, like, our normal, but I definitely know that we do have, basically like a town hall function, and there is, a couple of stages, and I think, like, 2 worlds where, we could get up there, talk, and have a conversation, and there's, like, we call them, like, voice zones, so if you're in the area, you can hear the people talking through the mic that's, like, integrated inside ChapterX. So I mean, definitely if you want for the next AMA, we could test it out and run it inside of the metaverse as well. And I believe you should be able to have your sound settings pull it from like the Google Chrome browser. I know they have like settings in there where you can um, put inputs and outputs on it, but definitely would love to try that out and see everybody running around and as well too if you have some of the NFTs for the worlds, you could be your own avatar. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I know for, like, some of the worlds, I think we've estimated to be around, like, 500 to 1,000 that we could fit in, like, our largest worlds. And then some of the smaller ones is, like 5 to 200. So you could definitely fit a lot of people in there. I think the most I've seen in at one time was probably around, like, 25. During like one event we had. So, and like there wasn't like much lag at all or anything like that. So I definitely think it's possible. And like I said, if it's 50 or so people in there, I definitely think we could have a nice little conversation, run around. And like you said, we can play a couple of games that are in the world because like each world has like a different little mini game, catered to that project. For example, we've got like the ghost, you can fly through the rings, and the woofer world, you throw darts or where you throw bones at a dartboard. And then in the monkey DAO, you can do like a little like PvP fight, which is fun. So there's definitely things to do outside of just having a conversation or um, just running around and playing in there. Yeah, I mean, and I've even done, we had an event with Metaplex, when they like release their world and they don't really have any games in there. There was just like a scavenger hunt where you had to find a couple of like codes on the wall to get a prize. But I was like, hey, like let's do a foot race from point A to point B, and then we did some like hide and go seek and stuff like that. So I mean, even though there's things that you can just like make up in there, which is like fun that we kind of just were like brainstorming, like, oh, like what can we do in here outside of the normal things that are in here. Yeah, so we have a world that's going to be coming out maybe by the end of this month. It's Club now, but there's this kind of like a futuristic city, lots of neon lights. They have a giant stage that has like a video in the background. We're going to introduce streaming, so that way when you go in there, you can kind of like yeah, you can watch like Twitch streams and stuff on the it's like in like a bar room. Yeah. Yeah, so it would be perfect. You'd be able to pull up, your live stream in there and have the live stream in there, which would be cool. And then as well too, we've branched out to trying out like Web3 events and catering to those. I don't know if you've seen on I was talking about it a little bit earlier on our Twitter. You can go on there and look at the demo of our NFC cards. And for Breakpoint, me and the team went out there to hand out these cards to people, and we had a little bit over like 2,000 connections that were made. So we want to be able to create events in the metaverse and the real world as well. So yeah, so we're just trying to build the network, create a social group to where just people can connect. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of us are here for is we buy NFTs and yeah, we're trying to make money, but sometimes even if the NFT doesn't make you money, you get in the Discord, you join the community, and you just stay in there because you meet some really interesting and cool people. So I think that's like the best utility an NFT project can make. Like, yeah, having utility is in like a swap and staking and all that stuff is great, but it's the community around it that kind of really builds the floor price up and builds the value of the NFT up because people want to just be a part of something. Yeah, definitely. I definitely think for their metaverse, like, I've seen a couple like previews and stuff for it. I think honestly, it's probably going to be spectacular. Because you look at Yuga and like the empire that they've built, being literally the top NFT project through all chains. They even had, they got Snoop Dogg and Eminem at like the MTV Music Awards. Like, they're definitely doing something right, and they definitely have the money to build something that no other like project can build. So I'm really excited to see what they do. I mean, obviously, I don't own any bases or like in that community at all, but I am happy for them to kind of like create something that can kind of be the pave way for other projects, like us or on any other chain trying to build a metaverse to kind of like set a standard and then kind of like see what people like and what they don't like and then build off of the positive aspects of that chain because they're going to be kind of the first to push it in the public's eye of like what the metaverse can be because we do have what's his name, Mark Zuckerberg creating his Meta, but that's not really. I wouldn't say that's really a metaverse. It's just VR. But I think like true metaverse would be, like what these projects on Solana, Ethereum, Aptos, like, we're building a true metaverse compared to whatever it is that Facebook is building, which is more of just like uh is it I know they've changed their name to Meta and they like talk about the metaverse. I have an Oculus, but and I've gone in like a couple of like the rooms that you can go in and like it's cool virtual reality, but you don't get the sense that it's like you're in a metaverse, if that makes sense. Like I think VR chat is like the best example of a metaverse, and they're not even that term wasn't even like really around when VR chat came out. But I think people are trying to pioneer around what VR chat has done for the metaverse in whole. Yeah, really. Don't get me wrong, there is definitely some cool games in VR, what's the Beat Saber? That one's a lot of fun, and, they have, there's, like, this one that's kinda like a Call of Duty style where, you actually, like, have to reload the magazine and reload your gun manually, which is, like, really cool, but yeah, I would definitely say VR chat is leading in the way in the metaverse, and they're not even a metaverse, like, project, they're just, a social world hangout area. Yeah, and talking about the headset, I think that's gonna be, um, something that I'm excited to see worlds and, like, metaverses integrate is the capability to join in, with your VR headset 'cause, I think there was one sorry, bless me. I think there was one project that had VR capability, but it was, like, really, really crappy, but, I'm excited to see, and I know, it's something like we've been talking about is to integrate having a headset in there. But I think the issue is a lot of people are kind of more or less like priced out of getting a VR technology because like right now the market really only supports either Oculus or HTC, and that kind of goes back to what we were talking about how like monopolies of just like major companies kind of just being the leading front because HTC is, um, what is I forgot what company they are, but I know it's like one of like the top ones, like either like Sony or Google or something like that. And then the Oculus is Facebook, so that's Meta. And there's other people that have VR products, but you know, the major platforms usually don't accept those just because they're not widely popular. So I think once there's more of a market, a free market for VR technology, then we'll probably see it integrated more into the metaverse as a whole. Yeah, yeah, and that's I mean that's another like kind of like as far as cell phone providers and cell phones to get because I mean at first we had Sprint, AT&T, T-Mobile. Feel like there was, like, a couple of more, but, like, they've just kinda all been, like, absorbed by either T-Mobile or AT&T now, and they've just, like, kinda just bought every other chain under them, and even though, like, it might be still under the name, it's now like a, what is it, like a sister or parent company, I think they call it. It's like or an umbrella corp where it's like one company and then they have all these others, so it's like the illusion that there's other choices, but there's one person that just, like, owns all of them. Um, and it's the same too for, like, phones. It's like, if you have a phone, either you have, an Android Google phone or you've got the iPhone with Apple. Oh, yeah, definitely. Um, Yeah, I mean, and I think that's just the issue that we're facing now with like crypto and these communities. It's like, we've got a bunch of people in here, we kind of like uh go back to the term like echo chamber inside of the crypto community where, on Twitter that's like all we follow. Uh, oh yeah. But yeah, so like we surround ourselves with basically just all crypto on Twitter. But if you've ever like explored outside of crypto Twitter, it's kind of cringe and like you'll go through and like see like what like you like click on like one of the trending options and you look on there and it's just like it seems like a whole different world outside of this. So um I think it's still very, very early. We're very still like a small community, in like the whole grand scheme of things. So I think once we get more people, adapt more people, suck more people into like this lifestyle, I think it's going to be easier to grow as a product and just as a whole community in itself. And definitely have to avoid the the corporate aspect of everything because that's like the beauty of why we're here is like going back about the decentralization. But at the end of the day, like it's kind of I want to say like inevitable that what's happening on the outside world would definitely happen in here where you see it with like projects in the space already. Like look at Yuga Labs, they've gotten so much attention. MTV is probably like, hey, look, like you're getting a lot of hype, like we want some of your audience has money. How can we partner with you to advertise our product, because we know more than likely like everybody's holding a picture of a monkey that's worth, $100,000, like, they're more than likely to buy, our product. So, they're probably heavily influenced by the outside corporate, you know, marketing agencies. And I think once we start to grow, we're going to have to kind of combat that. And hopefully we don't just become, some entity. Cause I mean, like, another example is like look at FTX. They start growing. People are like, "Wow, this guy's making a lot of money." He's endorsing. What they had. What's the basketball player? I can't think. I don't. Did they get LeBron James? Kevin. Um, oh, Steph Curry. Steph Curry. They got Tom Brady on FTX, and like now what he was the second largest donor to like Joe Biden and stuff. So it's like I think there's like a certain point to where you start making money and getting traction. Like outside corporate media is just gonna step in and try to do their thing that they do normally with any product that like grows up and starts to catch attention to people. So I just hope that in the future for crypto and all these blockchains, Solana, Ethereum, Aptos, Polygon, us getting bigger, we don't succumb to the corporate greed. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the, yeah, I just hope, we truly stay decentralized. Because even though, like, the foundation can be, like you said, just the people in it can still, have that greed or whatever, but yeah, I mean, it's I look at crypto as, like, the Wild West, and we're basically trying to build a community, build a foundation outside of the average norm, um, and just kinda see where it goes and see what happens. Yeah, yeah, so you gotta be careful with where it leads to, because I mean, like, there's I think it was like an old TV show called, Whitest Kids You Know. Have you ever seen that? There's, like, this funny skit where, they're, like, talking about, like, anarchy, and they're like, "Yeah, like, we don't wanna work or do anything," and then the guy's like, "Well," he's like, "Who's gonna feed us?" And he's like, "Well, I'll go get the food and do that," and then it just, like, goes on through, like, to, like, the point where, they're like, "Alright, well, we'll all wear T-shirts that are labeled, different colors, so that way we know who's who," and then he's like, "Yeah, well, like, what if I'm just wearing the T-shirt that gets, like, the free food because 'cause I'm out working?" And he's like, "Well, then, we'll make a police like, a person to, govern who's wearing the right shirts." And he's like, "So a policeman?" And they're like, "No, no, 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 it's different." And, eventually, like, you just end up building the society that you, like, strayed away from. So, like, there's always that downside, when you're building a community up from the ground to, like, a mass scale of, um, to where we're running, like, at large. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, we got our Telegram and, DM stuff. We'll, sort something out and get something going, because 'cause I'd like to see that in action, hosting a, like, a big, town hall type situation. But yeah, definitely we can, choose a world to do it in, pick the day, pick the time, find an event, some prizes and stuff for it. Yeah, definitely, and as always, it's a pleasure to chat with you. I love, conversations. Alright, you too.